Today, mm, today we're going to look at free will, fate, destiny, however we want to sort of language the choices we have and the choices we don't have. So if I were to believe that life is fate driven, the question for me becomes how will that frame the way in which I live my life? If I think everything's just going to happen anyway, what happens to my mindset? This may be an inelegant way for me to live because I get lost in the idea of personal agency. I don't have it. If I don't have personal agency, then I find a sort of abdication from the responsibility of life. I get less involved. If I think it's just going to happen to me regardless, my interest in overriding that may diminish. So what does free will potentially mean? Is it free will over only certain things? Is it free will over all things? No things? The mythic stories, there are so many of them across cultures, of a child being born into a culture where seers are called to see into the child's destiny. And then the parents decide that they don't want their child to be on that destiny path, on that particular destiny path. So they exert all of their energy to direct the child away from that path. And in the end, that's the exact path that the child adopts. Buddha is a perfect example of that. Raised in a royal family where they had royal expectations for how he would serve, and his calling was, of course, not that. It was to go work with those who didn't have any money and had to live a different life, and how to bring a truth and a knowingness to that. So a whole different way of living his life, which was not what his family had intended for him. This story is seen across many cultures through different illustrations. So when we try to influence and resist what the direction of life is, often the exact thing we're trying to control shows up with more force. So we're trying to keep it at bay, and then it just explodes. And we ask ourselves, is that the tide of inevitability? Is this fate and destiny? Was it going to happen no matter what I did? Or did I somehow get in the way? Did I overactivate it? But if we see the cosmos, if we change how we view the cosmos and we see it as a set of patterns and relationships, and then understanding that all things are interrelated and there are great animate forces at play, we start to surrender a bit to the structure that's outside of our immediate understanding. So some individuals are better at seeing these patterns. Some individuals spend a lifetime nurturing this insight, the ability to see inward and to understand these overlaps and these familiarities and these consistencies within the structure of the animate world around us. So tapping into the capacity to understand and predict and participate in these patterns influences our life, because we start to see life as a bigger structure. And within that structure, some of the movement in our life starts to make more sense, even when it's unwelcome movement. It starts to make more sense. So at what point in our human development did we decide that we or imagine ourselves as something outside of this determinate animate laws that exist within the cosmos? At what point did we see that we're stronger than those laws and that we're capable of controlling all things, large and small? Or did we decide that there are the small things we can control and the big things we can't, and we put a line in the sand of what's mine to control and what's mine not to, still using the control paradigm for how I live my life? So asking ourselves in Maya, in the illusion of how we're here and what we're doing, is it a dream that we are masterful, powerful, intelligent, and that we can manipulate cause and effect by sheer willpower? I know many people in my life who are very confident that they can manipulate, and they have very good manifestation qualities. And so it appears that they are manipulating things to be the way they want them to be, and with good mind, not trying to do something devious or, not good, but but still there's something that they see themselves as stronger than. So here's one example of, when we're really looking at how the laws apply to us, and what is reality and what isn't. Here's one example: flying. We know that it's possible for objects to fly. But there was a time when we did not believe that it was possible for objects to fly. However, currently, it's not possible for humans to fly unassisted. In the third dimension, at least in our dimension, setting aside angels, we can't just go decide to fly to the next town over or go visit our friend. And this is due to the laws of nature as we understand them now. That's not to say that when we mature as a humanity and we step into possibilities that are beyond our understanding right now, that we might not be able to fly. We don't know. We thought the earth was flat, then it wasn't flat. There's a lot of unseen, unknown that's out there, but within the laws that are covering and governing us right now, we can't fly, but it's possible at some point. So the laws of nature as we understand them now are, some of them are very obvious and some of them are unseen. They have to be seen in our inner sight, not our outer sight, because they're happening at a more subtle level, but they still exist. And when we try to live our life outside of those laws, we bump up against these inherent conditions that we live within. And then we think, well, I don't have free will. If there's all this that's going on around me that I have to adhere to, then where's my free will? And we have to look at, is my free will in the surrender to some things is actually the freedom I'm choosing. It's not the freedom to do the activity. It's the freedom to see that there are already in this huge world, cosmos, universe that we live in, there are inherent laws that exist that are seen and unseen. So in our modern Western narrative, it's around individual will and progress. And so through this, we have made huge strides because we believed we could in understanding the body, in medicine, as we were just talking about, and in this profound nature of quantum physics. All of this because someone didn't believe what is obvious was the full story. They delved further in and they learned that there was more of a story. So this gives us hope for more progress, but it also engenders a sense of power. We have power. So when we have power, we don't want to surrender. Why would you surrender? If you have power, you don't need to surrender. So it creates this mindset of it's distancing us from the innate human connectedness to the cosmic rules and laws and the divinity within the whole of the universe. It becomes very scientific. What we can use our mind to change, we change, and we never really resist or say, I'm just going to surrender in this moment. Not to say that I don't believe there's more to know, or there's more that I can move through that will show me more ways in which I have power, but I don't have to always push my power. I don't always have to push it, because when we do that, it leaves out a profound element of aliveness, our connectedness to the universe. So the more we've practiced this, the less connected we become. Now we're in a state in our cosmos where many of us are not connected to the whole of the aliveness of this universe, that we've become very human-centric. Everything is about us and what power we can exert. And we're missing out on a whole piece of our experience of being human. And what we call it is that's free will. I can do whatever I can do, wherever I can push and whatever I can accomplish, that's what I can do. But we must, in this inquiry, we must consider whether or not we believe that there are larger agencies at work in this universe. And if we do, then we can surrender to the unknown, to the mystery of it. And at some point that mystery may be revealed, and then there'll be a new mystery. That's fine, but that we don't have to know it all. And not stepping into the mystery is where we lose our connectedness. This is where we lose the sense of being able to have wonder and awe for the unknown that then appears before us. We become jaded. So we might say that when we align with the universe, we find less preoccupation with free will. We have less interest in exerting the notion of free will. So we feel less need to control when we align with the universe, because we now have we're playing on a bigger playing field, and we don't feel, we're not contracted to need to control or to even define, do I have free will or not? We embrace a loose destiny viewpoint, that there is a destiny in the looseness of the structure. So we say we have free will with an asterisk. I have free will, but I don't have free will for everything that's happening, because there's a bigger world out there than the world that I'm operating in. And what has not been revealed to me may not be completely within my control yet. And the closer that I align with source, the closer I feel my own free will within the structure of the cosmos, because I invite in this destiny and this sense that there is a plan, but I don't have to actually know it, and I don't actually have to control it. And it isn't like I'm a puppet and there's strings that are moving me and that I have no input on it whatsoever. How I understand free will for me is that I'm practicing developing my subtler senses to the frequency and the vibration of the universe, not just my human condition. The human condition is in a very dense way. We have a density. That's how we show up. Otherwise, our atoms wouldn't be vibrating enough for us to even have a form. We have a density. But the wisdom of the universe and the animate forces, the tides of the forces, are beyond us. They're not inside this little world that I'm living in when I only connect with the physical body. So I learn through my subtle development of my senses to be in alignment with the frequency. We all do this. You guys all do this. When you feel you're out and about and you have an energy about someone or a situation, or we call it intuition, but you're getting input of a frequency that tells you this is something you should pay attention to, or this is a person that you should get to know, or whatever it's telling you, there is a frequency that's happening. And when we develop and acknowledge that frequency, we start to be more accepting of what we don't know. And then we're not out of free will. We haven't lost our will. We've simply lost the need to have control over everything. And in this way, we more easily recognize and align to the greater currents and tides and the changing paradigms. And we have a lot of change going on around us right now, which can be really disconcerting and throw us off of our balance, because we want to have more control because it feels out of control. But when we step into the understanding that this piece is one cog in a very big piece and movement, where it's so, if we can look back in history and see historically what the movement has been of mankind and cultures and mindsets and laws and all of the things that make up the human movement through time and space, we can see that we're just a simple, tiny piece of this. And yet we have a responsibility within it. We don't just abdicate responsibility. So perhaps the deep life lesson is how to navigate mystery until it becomes a seat of my truth. How do I navigate being in mystery, and so that I then understand that even in the unknown, it has a truth to it? That just because something's not known doesn't make it less true. And I surrender my mind in this process. I surrender my mind to the idea of free will. That word no longer needs to be part of my vernacular, because free will is not the question anymore. The question is, am I tapping into the fullness of this universe? And then I know within that where I'm operating. I see it like scaffolding of a geodome around us. And that scaffolding is already there. It's part of the cosmic structure and matrix. I can't avoid that. And it trickles down into the smaller ways of impacting in my everyday life. But within that, there's a structure that I move, and I have a lot of freedom. But the more I understand that structure and the more I accept that structure, then I have actually more free will, because there's less push against it. Because I know that I can't go out to my front doorstep and fly myself over to Britt Marie's, even though I want to. I actually have to get in my car. And this is an obvious one, but it comes down to all sorts of smaller ways that this is happening, where my frustration comes out of what I perceive as not having control and free will. So perhaps free will is not actually free. You know, it requires us to stand on the fine line between control and surrender. And it requires us to use our inner eye to see when and where we step up to a challenge and where we sit down to experience the natural unfolding and the multitude of intersections into the matrix of life. It's a very fine line. We dance on the head of a pin. And when we start doing that dance, we start to let go of the things that don't need to be on the head of the pin naturally. And we take in less frustration, and we allow certain things to play out in their own time, even though we don't like that. We want it to play out in our time because I want to know I have power and free will and some control. I don't need to have any control. My real control is letting go of control. Then I actually have tapped into control, because I then use my inner eye to see what my move is instead of using my external world to dictate how I move around. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. I'm going to put this in the chat because I love this. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You will live in a state where you think everything is happening to you, not for you. And our consciousness is awakening to the all. How do we awaken to the all, not to just the things that pertain to me? And when we enter that space, we develop a deeper and deeper call to be in relationship with the whole. And this will impact how we understand time, that independent time is not linear time, and our experiences and our relationships will take on a different quality, because the multi-dimensional rhythm of the cosmos has to overlay itself onto our one-dimensional being. And then we see through these multi-dimensional aspects. One practical discipline for this practice is within the Buddhist Eightfold Path. I just love it, how Buddhism just is so underlies so many different aspects of life. When we ask, what is my right speech, my right action, my right concentration, etc. And I practice these disciplines so that I align myself with the greater currents and animate forces so that I have absolute freedom. It's through my discipline that I access this. Through my practice, through my sadhana, that I access this space where my freedom is actually happening to me, even though from a mental construct, I might think I'm not having freedom. Something to think about for this week, my dear ladies. Okay, it's city time. Better get on it fast. Otherwise, there's not going to be enough time. Oh God, there's so many stresses. Okay. Here we go.
Good morning, still from Hamburg, Germany. Yeah, so today is my grandson's wedding. And I have to admit, I've really started feeling old, but in a good way. But it's like, okay, that's the next step. I could be a great grandmother very soon. So that's quite impressive. Okay, that said, let's work our shoulders and our arms. So I want you to have your palms facing forward. On the inhalation, you just have your fingertips, index and middle finger touch, or not just, just do your best here. And then exhale and bring the elbows behind your torso. It's inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And you can close your eyes so that you can feel into it. Breathing into the expansion, into the opening, into the letting go. If one shoulder, for example, is hurting, then you just move the opposite arm. That's fine. That side of your body will inform the other side, which is not moving. Do a little bit more here. Good. Inhale up. And exhale, rest your hands just for a moment onto your knees. Close your eyes if you haven't done so. Take a moment to feel into your shoulders. They carry our emotions. Good. We open our eyes. We interlace our fingers behind our head. And then elbows nicely out to the side as much as you can. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Emphasis on opening up your heart and your lungs. Making space for empathy and understanding. It's in the simplicity of movements where we make often the biggest changes. The importance is the repetition. To move through discomfort, not through pain, but through maybe a little discomfort is okay. Good. Inhale, open. Exhale, rest your hands back onto your knees. Keep your eyes closed or close your eyes and just feel. It's when we have our eyes closed that we can be truly present to what's going on inside of us. As soon as we open our eyes, we are easily distracted. Good, and now we open our eyes just to see what we're doing now. So make a fist, thumb inside, squeeze your thumb powerfully so that you activate your lung meridian. Inhale, bring your elbows nicely back. Exhale. And again, close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so. Feel into your shoulder blades, into your back. So seldom that we work these parts of our body. Good, and inhale, open. And the same thing, rest your hands back onto your knees, eyes closed, be present. You might feel a slight tingling. That's okay. Good. Open your eyes. Now keep your elbows close to your body and just move the outside of your pinkies together. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. All simple movements, nothing where we need a degree for. The body wants to move. It's a moving apparatus, actually, what we say in Germany. And the less we move it, the more lethargic it gets. Really squeeze your elbows towards your torso here. A little more. Good. Inhale, open. And exhale, relax. So for the next one, you either have to move really forward on your chair, if that's possible, or you have to do it standing. We will interlace our fingers behind our back and just moving our arms up and down. See that your arms stay straight. Again, if there's pain, stop. Yeah. If there's just an expansion and you feel it, that's good. All these movements we do this morning should feel easy. And the emphasis is on should. Good. Inhale up. And exhale, bring your arms around. Come sitting if you were standing. Regulate your breath. Good. 3 more exercises. Interlace your fingers. Bring the arms overhead. Inhale, exhale. So I inhale to the side of my heart and I exhale to the side of my liver. Strong breath. Keep your head up. And the tendency would to do like this, tucking the chin in. Just keep your head up. Really make arm and shoulder movements a little routine every day, because we move a lot our legs, yeah, hopefully. But there's such little emphasis on our arms and on our shoulders. Even in walking, just walking, we're not moving our arms really. So it would be great if you take little weights or you consciously move your arms up and down when you walk. Good. Inhale, center. Exhale, relax. You might feel that your heart is beating a little stronger right now. That's good. Interlace your fingers in front. Inhale, up overhead. So see, I'm not bending my elbows. Keep my arms straight. Now they're moving through the entire auric field of our chakras, our energy centers. Keep your arms straight. You want to bend very easily. This is great to cleanse out the sinuses too. Little more. Good. Inhale up. Exhale, sweep through your auric field. Rest your hands back onto your knees and prepare for the last movement. Then we open our eyes. We bring our arms out to the side like 60 degree. That's your inhale. Exhale, place your hands on opposite shoulder. Inhale, and then cross. It's easier said than done. I have a hair stick in my back, so I'm bumping against it. See how in this posture, especially how you lift your diaphragm. Giving a lot of space to what's beneath it. Good. Inhale, rest your hands onto your knees. Exhale, open mouth. 2 more times. Inhale, nose. Exhale, open mouth. Drop your shoulders. 1 more time. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Wunderbar.